I did get a chance to look inside the craft. It's a really weird-looking thing. Bob Lazar, the man who first blew the whistle on Area 51 secrets, is back with another shocking revelation. This time, he claims the US government was forced to shut down the infamous site after capturing something no one was ever supposed to see. What could be so extraordinary that it led to the closure of one of the most secretive locations on Earth? Join me in this video as we delve into Bob Lazar's latest claims and uncover the startling truth about what really happened in Area 51. You won't want to miss this. Area 51 has been the subject of countless conspiracy theories, speculations, and wild rumors. This highly classified Air Force facility in the Nevada desert has been at the center of UFO lore and government secrecy since the 1950s. But what exactly is it about this place that fuels so much intrigue? In 1989, Bob Lazar, a physicist who claimed to have worked at a site known as S for near Area 51, came forward with astonishing allegations. He said he was part of a team reverse engineering alien technology. According to Lazar, the government had in its possession several extraterrestrial spacecraft, and his job was to understand how they worked. Lazar's revelations were met with skepticism and controversy. Despite this, his story has persisted, and he has become a central figure in the UFO community. Recently, Lazar has come forward with new information that is even more shocking. What I saw at Area 51 and S4 was beyond anything I had ever imagined, but what happened recently was on a whole new level, he said. The government had to shut down operations because they captured something they could no longer contain. It was something so extraordinary that they couldn't risk it being exposed to the public. According to Lazar, the government's latest capture at Area 51 wasn't just another piece of alien technology, it was something alive. Lazar claims that the entity was unlike any known life form on Earth, and its existence posed a potential threat not just because of what it could do, but because of the implications it had for our understanding of life in the universe. The situation became so critical that the government decided to shut down parts of Area 51 to contain the entity and prevent any leaks. Lazar suggests that this shutdown is not just a temporary measure but a long-term plan to reassess and secure the facility. If Bob Lazar's claims are true, this would represent one of the most significant events in human history. The capture of a living extraterrestrial being would not only confirm the existence of alien life but also force us to rethink our place in the universe. The government's decision to shut down Area 51 would make sense as they try to manage the situation and understand the implications of this discovery. The government, of course, has neither confirmed nor denied Lazar's latest claims. Area 51 remains shrouded in secrecy, and access to the facility is still heavily restricted. This has only fueled more speculation and curiosity. For over half a century, it has captivated Americans. The mysterious area has served as the setting for numerous films and television shows, including *The X-Files*, and the 1996 summer smash hit *Independence Day Star. In 2019, a jokester managed to get millions of people to say yes to trespassing, catapulting this famous but mysterious site into the spotlight. College student Matty Roberts, 21, made the decision to establish a Facebook event in June 2019 with the title Storm Area 51, They Can't Stop All of Us. He announced that it would be held on September 20th. Roberts was under the impression that nobody would give the incident, which he had concocted as a joke, any attention beyond a brief giggle. However, over 2 million Facebook users confirmed their presence within a few days. A strong warning was issued by the Air Force to discourage anyone from attempting to penetrate a military base. In spite of the warnings, about 1,500 individuals gathered in the Nevada desert with their campsites, bringing the usual fare of alien-centric festival gear, harnesses inspired by Roswell, inflatable creatures, and so on. Although 40 daring souls did reach the base's perimeter, they largely remained chanting before dispersing when approached by law enforcement. Someone was taken into custody for urinating in public. Until 2013, nobody could agree on whether or not this military station even existed, let alone what had transpired inside. Area 51 was established during the Cold War to assist the United States in spying on the Soviet Union. However, many Americans began to link the base with alien spacecraft and little green men due to its secretive origins and advanced technology. What compelled scores of people to drive into the Nevada desert in September 2019 and stand outside of it, putting their lives on hold? Today, the U.S. Air Force uses the 38,400-acre patch of desert as a training site. Sometimes called the Nevada Test and Training Range, the base is located next to a salt flat called Groom Lake and is home to some of the longest runways in the world. Rachel, Nevada, is the nearest town, and it has 54 inhabitants. Absolutely no one is allowed in the airspace over the base, in case anybody was wondering. There are plenty of caution signs all throughout the area. We also know that workers aren't commuting there by car. Air traffic control audio out of a private terminal at Las Vegas's McCarran International Airport suggests that government-owned passenger jets flying under the name Janet Airlines make daily flights to and from somewhere in the Nevada desert. Prior to World War II, little much happened on this parcel of land around the Groom Lake Salt Flat. Prospectors found silver and lead in 1864. In 1889, a man by the name of Patrick Sheehan established Groom Mine from a modest homestead. Since Las Vegas wasn't even established as a city until 1905 and couldn't be reached by railroad until 1906, the Sheehans' property was rather isolated. In 1941, however, the family's peaceful existence was shattered when government agents were dispatched to survey the region for potential use as a bomber plane training ground. 6 miles away from the homestead, on the site of Area 51 today, an airfield named Indian Springs Auxiliary Field No. 1 was built. The Nevada test site, which was 20 miles away from the Sheehan's homestead, started nuclear explosion experiments in 1951 by the U.S. Department of Energy. Not much happened at the military training airport after World War II. President Dwight D. Eisenhower was concerned that the United States would be attacked because of its ignorance about Russia's military advances. In March 1954, in order to devise a scientific strategy to counter a possible Russian invasion, Eisenhower assembled a group of specialists. One thing was clear: the U.S. would need eyes in the skies over the Soviet Union. Once America had a blueprint in the works for a cutting-edge surveillance plane, a secure location would be required to assemble and test it. A scouting group flew over Groom Lake. From above, they could see it was remote and unassuming, and it already had an airstrip. It was perfect. That's how Area 51 was born. Paradise Ranch was the initial moniker given to the base by Lockheed engineer Kelly Johnson. Johnson did this to entice prospective employees by making the dry patch sound more desirable. In spite of the dearth of cultural offerings, nightlife, and flora, employees took to calling themselves ranch hands. The CIA's clandestine airborne spying mission soon made Area 51 their go-to site. However, the basic building required extensive renovations. As projects grew increasingly technologically intricate, Area 51 had been completely converted into a spy plane factory by 1964. In order to handle jets that can travel quicker, contractors extended the existing asphalt runway from 5,000 feet to 8,500 feet. Groom Lake received the dismantled naval dwelling units and aircraft hangars from the workers. A new water well and leisure amenities were constructed by the construction crew. In addition, they included the required storage space, warehouse, and retail area for fuel. Various types of attack and surveillance aircraft were developed at Area 51 throughout the years by the Air Force and the CIA. The first plane that was built at the so-called Paradise Ranch was the U-2 spy plane. Subsequent projects included the Lockheed A-12, the State Route 71 Blackbird, and the stealth F-117 Nighthawk attack aircraft. A Soviet-built MiG-21 F-13 plane that a defector pilot surrendered served as the project's fulcrum throughout the Vietnam War, and the base served as its headquarters. Naturally, that is only a small selection of the declassified initiatives that are known to us. You'll notice that there hasn't been much talk yet of extraterrestrial autopsies or UFOs. That's because those stories hadn't emerged yet, but they were about to. Letters and phone calls reporting UFO sightings began to stream into air traffic control and the Air Force in the late 1950s and early 1960s. Pilots on east-west flights at dusk were a major source of these reports. At heights too high for any man-made plane, they claimed to have seen flying saucers or burning discs. At the time, as far as the public knew, even the most advanced military aircraft flew below altitudes of 40,000 feet. The U-2 spy plane that the CIA was testing at Area 51 flew above 65,000 feet. There was an effort by the Air Force to look into sightings of UFOs in 1952 with the code name Operation Blue Book. The CIA compared the specifics of every UFO sighting with their classified flight records. All the notes were compiled, and then the citizens were informed that what they were seeing was a weather phenomenon. The claims that extraterrestrials were careening over American skies were further bolstered by this. Years later, what many had assumed would be confirmed by one man's baseless accusations. A number of people have pointed out that Bob Lazar has made some quite bold and completely implausible assertions recently. What Bob Lazar says has the potential to alter your worldview if you are willing to believe it. In the end, it was his accusations that made Area 51 famous. Bob Lazar made public in 1989 a tale that, if verified, would rank among the most shocking stories ever told. Lazar claims that he began his military career in 1980 at S4, a location close to Area 51. During his tenure here, Bob had the opportunity to observe and contribute to some very remarkable technological advancements. Extraterrestrial spaceship reverse engineering was Lazar's job description. A set of records pertaining to the art form he was researching was presented to him. It was supposedly for an archaeological dig that Lazar was operating. That's right, he's talking about ancient aliens. At S4, scientists were split into research groups based on their area of study in regard to the craft. As an example, Bob focused solely on propulsion while he was a member of a propulsion group. Others investigated various technological aspects such as flight controls, navigation, lift, and so forth. The craft Bob Lazar was a part of, along with another craft he saw on the site, an alleged live alien, and other outlandish allegations, were all detailed in Bob's account of his experience at S4. Bob found out that the Air Force would test their re-engineered craft over Groom Lake in the middle of the night. A group of his buddies were therefore invited to witness the spectacle. After a few of these trips, Lazar's employer learned of the UFO watch parties and let Bob go. Not long after Bob was terminated from the Air Force, he went to a local CBS affiliate in Las Vegas, where he was interviewed by reporter George Knapp. It was in this interview that Lazar provided information about what he experienced at Area 51 for the first time. After going public, Lazar remained inactive for quite some time. It wasn't until Jeremy Corbell directed Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers in 2018 that Lazar found himself back in the public eye. The new documentary also landed him a guest spot on the Joe Rogan Experience star. Lazar's interview with Rogan has become as prolific, if not more prolific, than his original interview with George Knapp. Looking for evidence to support Bob Lazar's assertions, a few things jump out. First, the public was unaware of the clandestine testing that took place at the base until Bob Lazar made his findings regarding Area 51 public. The attention it receives now was brought forth by his allegations. Surprisingly, the site has been involved in the testing of covert initiatives that have resulted in aircraft such as the stealth bomber. Bob has even led large groups of people to observe these tests, which were known to only a select few. Secondly, Lazar insisted that he had broken into the base using a special security system. According to Bob, there's a hand sensor that can identify a person by analyzing their bone density. Such scanners were in operation during Lazar's alleged employment. According to the Air Force, nobody in the general public knew about this technology when Bob first interviewed them. Element 115 is the most intriguing piece of evidence supporting Lazar's assertions. An integral part of the craft's propulsion system, Element 115 is the subject of his discussion. This element, which was formerly known as Muscovium, now has a spot on the periodic table. In 2003, a group of Russian scientists created an artificial element with the symbol Muscovium after synthesizing Element 115. Until 2003, this element remained a mystery. This element was unknown until 2003, 14 years after Lazar claimed to be researching the element for the US military. Oh, and the country that ended up publicly discovering this element? Russia, the other country obsessed with space. A mystery surrounds Element 115. It wasn't added to the periodic table until 2016, but for decades, theories about its possible link to alien technology and life have kept it in the spotlight. We need to know what element 115 is before we can answer the question of whether there is a relationship. Element 115, or muscovium, is a man-made superheavy element that has 115 protons in its nucleus. As with all elements on the periodic table, the element's number corresponds to the number of protons in the nucleus of the element's atom. That is 23 more protons than the heaviest element that you can find in large quantities on Earth, uranium. Gates said that element 115 is an extremely rare element that's made one atom at a time in particle accelerators. It exists for just a fraction of a second before it decays into another element. This location is unique because it is close to a hypothetical island of stability where extremely heavy nuclei may have significantly longer lives. They might not only live for a fraction of a second but for minutes, days, or even years. We may be able to put them to good use after all if we keep them for that long. It took years of nuclear research to work out some of the details about muscovium. It wasn't until 2018 that Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory scientists figured out that the element's mass or atomic weight, the total number of protons and neutrons in an atom, was 288. To nab this vital number, they repeated the process that the first discoverers used to pin down the element. In doing so, they managed to produce roughly 1 atom of muscovium per day, and that atom was captured by an instrument called Fiona for the identification of nuclei, which, to the untrained eye, looks like a small metal bank vault. Following in the footsteps of the original discoverers, they were able to nail down this crucial quantity. This allowed them to create about 1 atom of muscovium daily, which was then collected using an apparatus known as Fiona for the identification of nuclei, which resembles a miniature metal bank vault to the uninitiated. So, science, which is both real and substantial, has replaced the pleasure of little green men and magnificent spacecraft. The indicator that we are expanding our understanding of the cosmos, according to Gates, is happening. Muscovium has no known applications outside of academia at this time. If what Lazar said about his time at Area 51 is true, then the proof is fairly strong. Furthermore, there is equally convincing proof that Bob is making everything up. To start, it appears like Bob is having a little trouble getting his narrative straight. A few plot points have evolved between his first and second series of appearances. Bob first said he saw an actual extraterrestrial being questioned by 2 agents, then he changed his story and said he saw a lifelike mannequin designed to resemble the extraterrestrials. According to Lazar, his educational and professional credentials are quite remarkable, but when we contacted his previous places of employment and educational institutions, we found no evidence of his presence. In the case of the Air Force, this is the one exception. Despite the military group's denials, Lazar's name and contact details from their personnel phone books from that period are still floating around. Behavioral analysts examined Bob's interview body language and concluded he was being dishonest. Delving into Lazar's background beyond his peculiar stories revealed a wealth of information. Serious doubts regarding his dependability were cast by investigations. His reputation was cast into doubt, and his statements regarding his schooling and work were not verifiable. One example is his 1990 arrest, which was related to his role in running a brothel in Nevada. Motherboard, the tech arm of Vice, ran a long piece about Lazar in 2019. According to the report, in 2017, Lazar's scientific supply company was raided by the FBI and Michigan State Police in search of thallium sulfate, a poison that was linked to an unsolved murder. True believers, on the other hand, believe that they raided him in search of element 115. Lazar was personally questioned by reporter Tim McMillan about whether he possessed an element 115 fragment. In 2020, the New York Times made headlines worldwide when they reported that the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, which had been set up to investigate unidentified flying objects and was thought to have been disbanded, was still alive and well under the offices of the Office of Naval Intelligence. Furthermore, the publication reported that former task force director Luis Elizondo had the belief that the Pentagon had recovered UFOs for research, which rekindled the long-running controversy. Elizondo departed from his position in 2017. The story told by Bob Lazar is, to put it mildly, phenomenal. If it were true, it would alter not only the course of history but also the future and our own lives. It has the potential to be the greatest discovery in human history, but there is enough evidence to support or refute Lazar's claims. A number of people have raised questions about whether or not Lazar's revolutionary secret was genuine the whole time. Is the government actually working on a covert program to reverse engineer flying saucers, or is this whole thing just a publicity stunt? Who knows? But whatever the case may be, Bob Lazar's testimony is just as convincing and unprovable now as it was back then. Beyond Operation Blue Book, the government continued to investigate UFOs and other unexplained events. The Pentagon announced in August 2020 the formation of a new task force to investigate the source and content of these claims, with the stated goal of safeguarding national security interests. In 2020, 3 videos that had been leaked by Navy pilots were formally released by the Pentagon. The videos depict contacts between military planes and massive, fast-moving objects, but the objects seen in the recordings were not explained. According to a June 2020 survey, the majority of Americans believe that the United States government would keep UFO evidence secret if it had any, while only 22% believed that the details of purported alien sightings would be made public. Thanks for watching another episode of Voyager. While you're still here, make sure to click the video on your screen for more mind-blowing videos about space.